Uh, I welcome you all for the technical session 2. Let me invite and welcome Dr. Sadaf Shah, Assistant Professor, Department of English, University of Jammu, India. She will be the chairperson for this session, and I hand over the session to you. Please, ma'am.
Yeah, so thank you. And I have about four papers in this session. So the name of the presenters are the first paper is by Dr. R. Prabhakar, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Vikrama Simhapuri University. And sharing, there's a co-author to the paper, Shri G. Rajakumar is a research scholar, and again from the Department of English itself, Vikrama Simhapuri University, Andhra Pradesh. So are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
I'm there.
so we'll start with your paper. So what instructions have been given to me is that the paper can go up to the time limit of 10 minutes, and then soon after the paper maybe we can have the observations or the comments or the questions that the audiences want to ask. So we'll begin with your paper. So the title of this paper is Literature and Tagore, Intellectual and Spiritual Metamorphosis from Man to Universal Human. So all the best.
Okay, ma'am.
You can
Thank you.
start.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, all of you. This is Rajkumar presenting the paper. I'm a research scholar for my PhD in Vikramasinghe University, Nellore, Andhra Pradesh, and my research supervisor is Dr. Prabhakar. It is associate professor, not assistant professor, Department of English, Vikramasinghe University, Nellore, Andhra Pradesh. And the paper's title is that Literature and Tagore, Intellectual and Spiritual Metamorphosis from Man to Universal Human. Society today suffers from many disorders and negative elements, and I think Tagore's writings have a remedy for the ills that society suffers from today. So, for finding out the solutions for the problems contemporary society is facing, from the squeezed essence of works of Rabindranath Tagore, the reader needs a fair knowledge and understanding of the socio-economic, cultural, and political conditions in the contemporary society. If the humans and the civilizations that exist on the planet are facing restlessness, Rabindranath Tagore is the mentor for for restoring missing peace and tranquility. Tagore deals with minds with elevated status of noble thinking. As mentioned in Upanishads, man's intellectual journey should be from ignorance to knowledge, from darkness to light, and from death to life. That is, asatoma sadgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityurma amritangamaya. So, the first Asian Nobel laureate, that is Rabindranath Tagore, touches upon the significance of literature, language, human mind, nature, and supreme soul, that is the creator of this universe. When the universe or the world or the creation has become tumultuous, violent, and disorderly, and when the world maintains unity at the cost of diversity, and violence, and when the violence is increasing in the world and in the society, Tagore has the solutions through his writings. And I would like to touch upon the literature of Tagore as well as the literature of others within this 10 minutes time, and the language also as a unifier of human race and human mind and nature that exists this uh, earth, and supreme soul, that is uh, the Almighty who controls this universe. So, to begin with, the basic unit of education is letter. Letters are the basic unit of language. Language learning makes a person literate. A literate person tastes the yummy flavors of yummy flavors of knowledge. Good knowledge, with its intoxicating impact, has the tendency of making its holder an addict to it. An addict to knowledge is an asset to society because because of the presence of addicts, the society gets elevated in stature, gets ameliorated in amenities, attains accelerated growth, and remains cultured for the universal values because the universal values revive the unity and the integrity among the human beings and among the nations as well. Such a society, or such nations, with all the above virtues, in turn produces good writers, and good writers produce good literature, and good literature influences generations to come. And Rabindranath Tagore has been an eminent writer, a noble personality, a universal citizen, and he has been influencing the generations for many centuries, for the last century, this century, and many centuries to come. And the literature influences, because this is a conference on language, literature, and linguistics. I would like to touch upon the literature of Tagore and passing comments on the literature of others also. Gandhi, the contemporary of Tagore, was influenced by the literary works of Leo Tolstoy's The Kingdom of God is Within You and Ruskin's Unto This Last. Similarly, there are persons who have been influenced by the teachings, writings, and literature of other writers. For example, Socrates influenced Plato, and Plato influenced Aristotle, and Aristotle could produce the great Alexander the Great, who uh, many historians say, who invaded other nations in the world, and that's why he became the conqueror of the world. But in my view, he unified the world through his conquests, and Greek culture has been there almost in all the nations of the world today. That's why uh, Aristotle produced a personality who could unify the world through his conquests. And coming to the element of language, language also is a unifying factor of human beings, of all nations, because the language is a tool for expressing our views to others so that friendliness, cordiality, harmony, they are created through the languages. So language in his writings, Rabindranath Tagore also makes an in-depth study of language as a unifying factor of humanity. To cite an example, I take the Gregorian calendar as an example for explaining about this uh, factor. The Gregorian calendar now being followed had only 10 months in the beginning. The year started from March, hence there were 10 months. The first 6 months, that is, up to the month of August, the months had been named after various goddesses, flowers, and emperors. From the month of September onwards, the months have been given the numbers starting from the first month of March. September becomes the seventh month in those days. October 8th month, November 9th month, and December 10th month. These months from September to December have cognates with numbers from Sanskrit and Hindi language. Cognates are the words that are born from the same roots. Sapta in September uh, sounds like Sapta in Sanskrit and Hindi, which means seven. Octo in October with the Asta, which means eight in Sanskrit and Hindi, and Nava with Nava in Sanskrit and Hindi, which means nine, and Disha with Dasa, which means 10. In this way, language through various means influence people and connects cultures and creates an ambient and organic elements permanently to keep the world as one unit. And Rabindranath Tagore has taken care of this element of literature also, which is uh, an indivisible part of language. So language and literature cannot be divorced because they are the twins of human mind. Next, human mind also plays a very, very important role either in dividing the human races, either in dividing the peoples of the world, or in unifying the peoples of the world to live in harmony or to live in disharmony. So, Rabindranath Tagore knew the invaluable value of education pretty well. So, he got himself educated for refining his talents and became a playwright, short story writer, an essayist, a novelist, a poet, a singer, a painter, a musician, an orator, and finally a universal human being. He also established permanent institutions of education and indelible ways of teaching and learning methods at Shantiniketan, that is, Vishwabharati University today. The theme of Plato's statement, that is, it is better to remain untaught than to be ill-taught. This uh, leading and misleading, there are two activities, and being taught and being ill taught also are two activities. The people with who are ill taught may mislead the people or mislead the societies and mislead the nations, and people who are well taught are the need of the hour for leading the societies and leading the people in the right directions. So, human mind itself has the ability of unifying the universe, and this is taken care of by Rabindranath Tagore in his writings. He knew that science gives man knowledge of external part of the world. He here means Tagore knew that science gives man the knowledge of external part of the world, which while literature enables man to know about himself or herself. This is corroborated when he said in his essay, The Relation of the Individual to the Universe. I quote here, a man whose acquaintance with the world does not lead him deeper than science leads him will never understand what it is that the man with a spiritual vision finds in the natural phenomena. So, Tagore here stresses upon the vision which can see the invisible things, and he emphasizes the need for spiritual education also. Here, he, when he tried to transform himself into the universal citizen, he submitted a prayer to the Almighty in this poem, that is, this is my prayer to thee, my Lord. Strike, strike at the root of penury in my heart. Give me the strength lightly to bear my joys and sorrows. Give me the strength to make my love fruitful in the service of humanity. Give me the strength never to disown the poor and bend my knees before the insolent might. Give me the strength to raise my mind high above the daily trifles, and give me the strength to surrender my strength to thy will with love. So, such a great personality becomes so humble before the Almighty to transform into a universal human being so that he is he is in such a position to lead the humanity by example, to lead the humanity by practical living mode. Next, nature. Finally, nature also plays very important role. In the words of Wordsworth, to be her master, obey nature. This is the essence of the words of Wordsworth. So Tagore also requests all the human race, all the human beings, to obey nature, to be her masters. So, but what is going on today is we are conducting international conferences on climate change, but we are not obeying the principles of nature. That's why we are facing natural calamities like floods, droughts, cyclones, and other such things. So man is causing his own doomsday on his own and by his activities. And the channel of transformation is that pray to God. Rabindranath Tagore treats Gayatri Mantra as the universal prayer. Here, the etymological meaning of Gayatri mantra is to be taken into account in order to dispel any doubts in the minds of the readers. Gaya means to sing or recite. Three means to protect. Whoever recites this prayer will be protected by the Almighty. Almighty is one, prayer is one, human is one, the globe is one. And this oneness throughout this universe must be understood by the reader. And this was the effort done by Rabindranath Tagore throughout his life. And his efforts uh, have borne fruit, bear fruit, and will bear fruit in future also. And it is highly difficult to present total essence of the transformation of Tagore from man to uh, universal human being within this 10 minutes time. Even then, I have tried my level best to present the theme in the given time. Thank you for giving me this time, and thank you for the opportunity also. Thank you.
Very well done. I mean, really a good presentation. Very well read paper. Is there any question anybody would like to ask, or anything, any observation or comment? No one? Nobody wants to ask a question? It can be a comment also, or an observation. It can be anything. Well, I guess nobody wants to ask a question. So, first of all, congratulations. This was rather a very interesting paper, because I feel your paper uh, gives solution to the present world, all the problems that has been created in the present world. I think you've touched upon each and every aspect, and in a very beautiful manner. I think the best the literature scholars can do, that's what you've done. Just out of my curiosity, I wanted to know, is this your PhD work also?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm doing PhD on Rabindranath Tagore,
Mm-hmm.
Humanism and Civilization in the Selected Prose Works of Rabindranath Tagore, a study, ma'am. That's the topic. And I'm very much interested in eliciting, digging out the in-depth uh, messages for the human race by Tagore, ma'am.
And I think he gives all the solution, isn't it, in today's world, whatever problems we are having? Because I looked at all the aspects that you've taken up, and how you've deliberated on every aspect, every problem that we have to do in the society, and through Tagore's works and literature from rest of the world, how we, the literature scholars, are giving solutions to all those problems today.
Yes,
I
yes,
mean,
ma'am.
very interesting paper. So are you applying any theory in your PhD coursework?
Yes, it is contemporary approach, ma'am.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, yeah. So I thought you haven't talked about any critic in the paper. So I was just wondering, so what critics are you applying while you are researching? A very interesting paper. I liked everything about the paper. I can begin from the right from the very beginning, because such an interesting paper. I was so engrossed into it when you started talking about the language as a unifying factor, and the examples that you brought in, and when you talked about how it connects the different culture. The best thing I liked, how you related it to Sanskrit, when you brought the order of the months, that September, some, you said it means
yes, ma'am.
7 in Sanskrit, October the 8th. It was beautifully drawn. This shows that you've worked. It was an in-depth study, and then when you brought literature, you connected it with each other, then language, and then you talked about the human mind. I mean, which is so important. All the problems are coming out of it, and
Yes,
I really like that concept where you talked about untaught and retaught, and then you talked about well taught. I really like that concept. I wish if we follow all these three that you talked about, I think there'll be no problem. I liked how you brought everything, science, spirituality, and how Rabindranath Tagore has been talking about it. And even nature, you brought all these great writers from the literature of the world as well, because you're talking about Aristotle, you're talking about Wordsworth. And the most beautiful way was to end your paper by these two. First, the poem that you read, by Rabindranath Tagore. The concept of humanism is brought out so beautifully in that. And then finally, the meaning of Gayatri Mantra and how it can protect you. Beautifully read paper. I just feel actually your paper is need of the hour. If all human beings could uh, adhere to your paper and then follow all these things in life, I think this world would be a better place to live. So many congratulations. Well read, well written. Uh, Kudos. So thank you. Yeah. So I'm really glad I got the opportunity to hear this and how beautifully you mingled everything. Yeah, very
Thank
well
you.
done. So hope to see you very soon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
let's go to the next paper now. The next presenter is S. Kaliyappan, if I'm
Yes,
pronouncing
ma'am.
it correctly. Yeah. And
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, he's a PhD scholar uh, from the Department of English, Vijay Vidyalaya College of Arts and Science,
Yes, ma'am.
Dharampuri. Dharampuri, yeah.
Yes,
And the title of
Dharapur.
his paper is A Study of Society, Culture and Roots of Social Identity in the Place of Asif Gramboy. So all the best. So similarly, we'll follow the same pattern. You read the paper, and if we have any questions or comments or observations, we'll take right after your paper. So all the
Yes,
best for your
ma'am.
paper. Yeah,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. It's
you're
me,
welcome.
S. Kaliappan from Department of English, Sri
Yeah,
Vijay Vidyalaya College of Arts and Science, Dharmaburi, Tamil Nadu, India.
yeah,
It's my topic is a study of society, culture, and roots of social identity in the place of Asif Karimboy. Society and culture are the inevitable elements of an individual's life. Without society and culture, there is no identity for the human. There is no doubt that the India is known for its cultural heritage and society. Every nation has its own unique features and identity, so it emerged with special identity. The socio-cultural elements is like an umbrella term which covers religious, social, moral, cultural, regional, and many more other aspects. These aspects are related with the national identity, social values, and also related with the cultural backgrounds. India is one of those nations having immense diversity because during the time of ancient age, India was one of the richest civilizations. The term culture is not easy to define with such definitions because there are many thinkers who try to define culture as per their experience and knowledge. Culture is the mirror of any particular region. Every nation has their own cultural and they also keep their identity differs with their nation of culture. Culture is somehow related with the religion as per the belief and the custom of the society emerge in the form of culture. Culture is related with the regional language, dress, belief, customs, religion, food, and many more things. And after the independence of India, one more Indian English dramatist, it's none other than Asif Karimboy, gave the reflection of Indian culture and society in his works with various layers of discourse. He does not only give the social or cultural background, but he also tried to define the human relations, bondage, the elements of love and sex, religious aspects, satirical context with the upper class and the lower class people. One more thing that he defines in his dramas and that is the relation between two major dominant cultures and religion Hindu and Muslim of Indian society. He has also written the drama which describes the Christianity and also Judaism. He has written many plays on Indian society and culture, which consists the religious aspects also. He is the firm supporter of international religion and he does not believe in the narrow religion concepts. He has given one message through his religious aspects from his drama that there is only one religion in the world and that religion is known as the humanity. Asif Karimboy falls under the various categories like socio-structural, political, historical, and religious. Here, I chosen three more plays regarding the topics. The first one is the Doldrummers, is a drama which defines the social problems and cultural identity in India with the impact of the post-colonial era. India is rooted with the heredity of rich cultural society, famous for its value and also known for its capacity to digest for foreign culture. On the surface, appear it is good to keep positive approach with the foreign culture and society, but sometimes by keeping blind following creates the cogitic situation in the identity of native culture and society. English people ruled over us more than 100 years, vanished our culture and social identity by destroying educational system. Our situation is like nowhere. We never completely accept their cultural and society. Other hand, we cannot forget our own culture completely. This drama defines the cultural identity in post-colonial era, how the youth lead themselves by following Western culture. The impact of Western culture and society became dominant over us. Therefore, it is important to note that the dramatist here not talking about our own sense being, but he defines about the marks and sign which classified us from the others. This is the first one. And then the second one. Asim Karimboy has written Monsoon, the religious drama which has the concept of Christianity. It is really a very significant play, describe the religion as a pious one, and this Christian religion is accepted by the largest number of people of the world. This religion has two poles. One is based on their purity of heart, while other based on the devotion towards Almighty. As for this religion, if some wrong work happen in the life, it should be repented with the core of the heart. Only then one can make the inner side pure. Human side is the most pure element for the human, so it is remain always pure by doing confession to the God. Pureness of the human psyche is the most essential rather than the human body. The title of the play, Monsoon, has the symbolical meaning, or we can say that it is the allegorical drama which discusses about the Christian myths and customs. The monsoon stands for the rainy season, which covered the farm or land with greenery, but on the other faces, if it gives rain in excessive form, then it also ruins the life of ruins the life and the natural beauty. This is the second one. Then the last one, the miracle seed, is a play about the Indian identity of 70s when India is developing in science field. There is no doubt that this land is known as the land of farmers, and this nation is the nation of farming land where farmers are the backbone of the economic roots. The Miracle Seed by Asid Karimboy brings out the social realm and cultural difference of urban area with advancement and cutoff for rural area with completely unaware with scientific development. Farmers of the rural area are traditional and they are not aware of the new changes in the world. This play has the shade of realistic approach which highlighted the situation of farmers during the time of drought, and it also gave the light on the differences of urban people and the rural people. Socio-cultural aspects denote that society, especially the rural people, do not trust upon the urban systems and people, and especially they do not have faith in government. The Miracle Seed is about the modern Indian rural society, which gives us a tremendous impression of reality and presence and eternal change of endurance and survival. By emphasizing on the title, The Miracle Seed, draw attention with some supernatural elements, but there is no miracle in the drama. Only science can do advance in every field, and the people of different society and culture have to accept the changes like miracle. Thank you, ma'am. This is my topic, and this is my explanation for the related topic. And thanks to everyone for the given opportunity to present my paper.
So before I say anything, is there any question from any of the participants? Any comment or observation? Anything? No? Okay. So it was again a very interesting paper, and I think this is the work the work that you're doing for your PhD research also, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm
Yeah.
doing the same in my research.
Yeah. Again, what I want to ask is, are you applying any theory to the work that you're doing? Because you're talking so strongly about the society and culture. So are you applying any theory to this work? Because in your paper, you haven't you haven't applied any theorist, or you haven't talked about any critics.
Actually, ma'am, at present situation,
Yeah.
No one can follow that tradition. According to Asid Karibai, in ancient period, farmers are innocent. It's not farmers. In rural peoples, rural areas, there is no awareness. There is no awareness in the urban side. They don't know anything. They're innocent. They blindly they blindly follow their rules and regulation what framed by the society in their rural society.
No, I mean, I got the crux of your paper. I know what you're because you've very beautifully brought out the message that Asif Karimboy wants to pass on through his work is that because he's a great supporter of what you call as international religion, which is humanity for him. I totally understand, but my question was, are you applying any theory to your methodology to your work, the research work that you're doing? Because you didn't mention any of the critics, and neither have you applied any, theorists to your paper. So it was just out of my curiosity. I was asking, have you applied any methodology to your research work? That what my question was.
Yes, ma'am. In my point of view, we don't want to accept any concept, any ideas in a blind manner.
No, you're not getting it. Okay, it's all right. So,
Okay.
again, a very interesting paper, I would say, because you very beautifully talked about the message that Asif Karamboy
Yes.
wants to send, and
Yes, ma'am.
that's the lesson, that's the message of humanity. Because he says, for me, the biggest religion. I mean, he talks about this cosmopolitanism. He says the biggest religion for me, the international religion, should be humanity. So many congratulations to you.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
yeah, so well read paper. So now we'll take the third
Thank you.
paper,
Thank you, ma'am.
the third presenter, and the third presenter is Saini, a research scholar. Yeah, hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah,
Am I audible?
yeah, you are. She's from Kannur University, right?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
the title of her paper is Can Pigs Fly? A Reading into Sham Salvadore's Funny Boy, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, all the best.
Thank you, ma'am. Respected chairperson, organizers of this conference, and my fellow participants, a warm good afternoon to you all. Like ma'am said, I am Shaini, a research scholar from Kannur University, Kerala. Here, I'm going to do a textual analysis of Sam Salvadore's novel, Funny Boy. I'm doing this textual analysis using Judith Butler's concept of performativity and her arguments in Gender Trouble. Judith Butler's Gender Trouble, which was published in 1990, was widely acclaimed as a groundbreaking book due to its revolutionary ideas regarding gender identity and the relations between gender and sex, and the introduction of the notion of gender as performance or gender performativity. Before going into that, let me talk about the novelist and the novel that I have taken for my study. Shyam Selvadurai is a Sri Lankan Canadian novelist whose semi-autobiographical first novel, the novel for my study, Funny Boy, won the Books in Canada First Novel Award. Funny Boy is a coming-of-age novel that speaks about the growing up of a gay boy, quietly confounding the expectations of love, family, and country. The novel is subtitled A Novel in Six Stories. It is about the experiences of Arjun Shelvaratnam. He is called Arji throughout the novel, a Tamil boy growing up in an affluent and extended Colombo family. As in so many novels of childhood, the young protagonist is trying to discover himself and the world around him. Arji's most important discovery concerns his sexuality. He realizes that he is a funny boy, a different boy. He also comes to realize about the conflicts that he has to face within his society as a consequence of this discovery. Salvador's novels have the background of the struggle of the spirit, the soul, against oppression, be it of class, gender, and sexual orientation, capturing the nuances of the Sri Lankan society steeped in ethnic riots, political tensions, and cultural and social rigidity. Characters in Salvador's novels are spread in a sprawling narrative where they find love and friendship struggling through conflicts with family members, social mores, and their own repressed desires. Salvador's works are informed by meticulous research and a haunting evocation of Sri Lanka, which remains vital in his imagination despite his having lived in Canada for so many years. He has a deep engagement with his country of birth and its troubled history, but he is also aware of how impossible it would be for him to live there due to the country's anti-homophobic attitude towards homosexual relationships. Homophobia, or abhorrence for homosexual or homosexual bonding, is not a mere byproduct of the ignorance or prejudice of a segment of the population, but an aspect of the way power is organized and deployed throughout the society. Here lies the relevance of Butler's theory of performativity. The novel Funny Boy conforms to many of the characteristics of Bildungsroman literary tradition, in particular the one stipulating that the author mirrors some parts of his autobiography throughout the novel. In the world of his large family, affluent Tamils living in Colombo, Arji, just like his author Shyam Selvadurai, is an oddity, a funny boy who prefers dressing as a girl to playing cricket with his brother. He is ridiculed and given a nickname, Girly Boy. In this novel, Selvadurai reminisces his childhood days in Sri Lanka through his protagonist. Judith Butler, in her Gender Trouble, discusses about the question of identity formation. She opines that the identity is a social construct. There is no inner self. It is the outside world that determines who you are going to be, what is going to be a person's identity. In Funny Boy, we follow the life of the family through Ajit's eyes, as he comes to terms both with his own homosexuality and with the racism of the society in which he lives. Society joins hands to crush the budding inquisitiveness of Arji, the young protagonist. Arji is constantly taunted by people around him and is often called a girly boy, all because he aspires to think differently. Arji is forced to cry out, quote, I hate them all. I wish I was dead. Butler argues that everyday actions, speech utterances, gestures, and representations, dress codes, and behaviors, as well as certain prohibitions and taboos, all work to produce what is perceived as an essential masculine or feminine identity. Gender identity is a performative accomplishment, she writes, compelled by social sanctions and taboo. Gender is an identity instituted through a repetition of acts. When Aji was scolded and forced to stop from playing with girls, dolls, and his girlish games, he strikes back at the punishment meted out to him and asks, how was it that some people got to decide what was correct and not, just or unjust? Gender becomes naturalized, woven so tightly into the social fabric that it seems like a necessary part of the reality rather than a contingent prediction of history. Butler argues in her essay that we don't invent these roles, they are invented for us. When Adi was caught playing with dolls, playing bride game, his parents forbade him to play with girls. When he questions him, his mother scolds him, tries to control him. His sister Sonali questions her mother, why can't he play with girls? Mother replies, why? Because the sky is so high and pigs can't fly. Butler argues against culturally constructed binaries that she perceives as a holdover from a masculinist society's way of thinking about the mind and the body. In order to reform his son, Arji's father requests his friend's son, Jagan, to take an interest in Arji. Father says, quote, I'm glad you take an interest in him. That boy worries me. When Jagan inquired what his worries were, Arji's father replied, from the time he was small, he has shown certain tendencies. What do you mean by tendencies? Jagan asked. Father replies, you know, he used to play with dolls, always reading. Then his father becomes embarrassed and says, anyway, the main point is that I'm glad that you're taking an interest in him. Maybe he will outgrow this phase. Gender performity for Butler is nonetheless not something of any particular person acts out, but rather a ritualized, socially constructed norms that one follows. In being a man, you actually act out the socially sanctioned form of a masculinity. The performance is ever replayed. In Gender Trouble, Judith Butler genders Michel Foucault's notions and holds that gender is in fact the predominant cultural agent which operates on the body, thus constituting the concepts of masculinity, femininity, and the identities of heterosexuality, homosexuality. Worried about the certain tendencies shown by Arji and to cure him of it, his father decides to change his school. Arji, who was studying in St. Gabriel's School, is transformed to the Queen's Victoria Academy. When he questions his father, he is told that it was good for him. But why? Arji asked. Because it is good for you. On further questioning, Arji's father authoritatively informs him that the academy will force you to become a man. Michel Foucault, the French philosopher, argued that oppression imposed on prisoners is not internalized, but is rather imprinted or marked on their bodies. Methods of discipline and punishment act on the body and form the image of a recalcitrant inner soul. When Arji realizes that he and his friend Shehen were considered and looked upon as oddities, the ills and burdens of the society, he is fed up with the taunts and constant punishments meted out to him by his classmates and the principal of the school. He decides to retaliate. Arji does so by overturning the well-laid plans of the principal by making him lose face before a big gathering of parents and ministers. Arji feels triumphant on taking revenge for the shame and torture that his friends and himself had to undergo at the hands of the school authorities and all those who marked him as an oddity or ills and burdens. After this, Arji comes to realize that growing up is never simple. The decisions you make, the actions you take make you who you are. He realizes that no sexual identity is deviant or normal. He starts believing that, of course, sky is not so high and pigs can fly. Thank you, ma'am. Hello?
Yeah. Yes, Amy. Very well done. So is there any question? Anybody wants to ask? Any observation or comment on her paper? I guess, Amy, there is none. So for me, it was a very interesting reading because the best part of your paper was the way you applied Butler, taking the journey of this little boy and, and how he grew up with the societal pressure. And another thing that I like that even the secondary source that you took, Michel Foucault, and you brought in that concept of prison and its impact on the psyche, on the inner side of a person that remains with it, was very interesting for me. And how at every phase of his life while he was growing, the way you've applied your critic and shown his growth excuse me, was very interesting for me. So excuse me, all the best. So was it your research work? Is this your research work?
Yes, ma'am. I'm doing my research in post-colonial buildings, Roman, selecting certain South Asian novels. Salvador is one of that novelists.
Yeah. So all the best for your future.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So now the last paper is by A. Deepika, research scholar from Annamalai University.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And the title of her paper is Diasporic Imagination in Mina Alexander's Atmospheric Embroidery.
Yes,
All the
ma'am.
best. All the best.
Thank you. Good afternoon, one and all presented here. I'm Deepika, I'm research scholar from Annamalai University. My paper entitled Diasporic Imagination in Nina Alexander's Atmospheric Embroidery. First, I would like to give a brief introduction about the author. As we all know, Nina Alexander was an Indian American poet, scholar, and writer. Alexander's collection of poetry includes atmospheric embroidery, birthplace with buried stones, quickly changing river, raw silk, and illiterate heart. Her collection in praise of fragments was published posthumously by Nightboat Book in February 2020. Alexander's work has been influenced and mentored by Indian poets Jayanta Mahabatra and Kamala Das, as well as the American poets such as Adrian Rich and Galway Kinnell. Nina Alexander poems often confronts the issues of exile and identity. Nina Alexander explored themes of feminism, post-colonialism, dislocation, memory, and mood. So, as a diasporic writer, her poems convey the fragmented experience of the traveler, for whom poem is either nowhere or everywhere. Diasporic literature actually encompasses the literature that deals with the experiences of migration and exile and cultural or geographical displacement, most often in the context of post-colonialism. So in this atmospheric embroidery, which is a poetry collection, which was written in a standard and recognized format, her majority of poems was written in open couplet without rhymes. Her subject matter varies with time and with region. So in this atmospheric embroidery, she continued this journey as a witness and a cartographer. She revisited the beginnings of her dislocation and assimilation into different lands. Here I have taken 4 poems for my analysis from this poetry collection. The very first poem is Fragment in Praise of Book, which represents her poetic engagements as a cumulative assemblage of multiplicities. Thus, her multiple language, multilingual, multicultural, and multi-subjective experiences are visible through a fragment written in a praise of book. So, using a college of philosophical thinkers, religious mythologies drawn from diverse faiths and beliefs, and historical references, Alexander narrated her tale about the displaced identities framed by cultural wraps, geographical spaces, and social beliefs. One of the recurrent motifs employed in this work is that of fabric. So in atmospheric embroidery, fabric repeated through the reference to Italian conceptual writer Alighiero Boetti. Alexander acknowledges the Boetti's artwork in her poem, that is artwork that is the Thousand Longest Rivers, because the art project took 7 years of research by Boetti and his wife, and completed in a large embroidered tapestry, was embroidered by Pakistani craftswomen. As a cartographer and a map reader, she observed this masterpiece and reflected in her poem. And why she named his title as a atmospheric embroidery means Alexander reflecting her own life experiences of having lived in India, Sudan, England, and the US. And she explores Mappa, a series of embroidered maps of the world, which was created by Italian conceptual artist Alighiero Boetti. So in my point of view, Mappa inspired her to name her book title as Atmospheric Embroidery. And so in this, we could also identify her nostalgic tone, because she have mentioned in her poem the river, the Nile, Mississippi, and Missouri. So her poetry also paid an homage to visual artists and other creative writers too. So one of them we have already seen, Alighiero Boetti. In Shook Silver, also one of her poems, Alexander related her, in this Mina Alexander related her autobiographical experiences as a child, accompanying her parents on a voyage to Africa by sea. So likewise in Journey, which was also one of the poems. So in this, we could analyze the violence of her displacement as a child, as well as remembering painful memories of her. So from these observations, I would get into conclusion that Meena Alexander has excavated a path for her readers to experience nostalgic pain, violent loss, and evocative grief. She also offered a visual journey via words into pain as well as the pleasure of diverse human experiences. And her predominant themes throughout the poetry was dislocation, homelessness, and violence of the body as well as the mind. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So we're done with our fourth paper also. So is there any question that anybody would like to ask her? Again, it can be any comment, any observation. Deepika, again, I guess no one. So again, my question would be, is this related to your research work?
Yes, ma'am. I have taken diasporic literature for my research.
And what methodology are you applying there?
I'm going to apply Homi Bhabha's hybridity, ma'am. Mixing of Western and Eastern culture.
Yeah, so it would have been interesting if you would have brought that concept while elaborating on the poems, because you very beautifully brought how the title was taken and the contemporary themes, the themes of modern era, how she presents all those in her works, because that's what your conclusion was, because she talks about all these problems, all these themes that exist or a common man faces in the present era. So, but nevertheless, it was very interesting paper, a very interesting reading. All the best for your research work.
Thank
So, I guess we are done with our technical session. So, I myself really enjoyed all the four papers because it gave me an insight into the various aspects. As you say, today's conference was about language, literature, and linguistics. So all the scholars have done justice to the theme of the conference and have tried to relate their papers to the present theme, and very aptly talked about all the works that they've taken and related it to the theme of the conference. So congratulations to all the presenters, and all the best for your future. So before I end my session, just want to thank the organizers for having given me this opportunity where I could listen to such interesting uh, papers, which gave a lot of insight, into the works that they have talked about. So it was very interesting, very insightful. Uh, Thank you, organizers, once again for making me a part of your conference and for giving me this opportunity where I could hear these presenters who worked hard and who really presented their papers very well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So should I leave?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, ma'am.